remember Alpha Protocol? From the makers of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic and Neverwinter Nights 2 comes Alpha Protocol, which was developed by Obsidian Entertainment and published by Sega, which has changed now as the publishing rights have expired and now Obsidian owns everything. Alpha Protocol is a game where Obsidian tried to do everything and a lot of it failed and succeeded. There's a lot to like, but there's also a lot of it to dislike. And a lot of this is because of the gameplay. Once again, Obsidian tried to do everything from stealth, action, manipulation, a skill tree, a dialogue tree, hacking, combat, everything you probably imagine in a normal RPG. And it's kind of insane how much Obsidian just jam-packed into this game, considering that a lot of it did work and a lot of it didn't work. But let's talk about each one individually, as most mechanics are rubbish. But first, when I loaded up this game, I tried stealth, and well, the stealth in this game is absolutely bloody horrendous. It is by far the worst stealth I have played in any AAA game. Like, holy shit, is it so bad. So in the game, you're told that you can hide behind cover and that stops enemies from spotting you. But you need to jump over a barrier like a small wall, which you can't. Instead, you have to get out of cover and run around to get to the area that you want to. This is terrible, as there are a multitude of times where you want to do this, but the game won't simply allow it. This doesn't make any sense, as a character who is a spy, by the way, should be able to. The worst thing is that this happens all the time, and not just for hiding, but for dropping down from a small height. There are times where your character can do this stuff, but you have to look out for a marker that points out where you can do that. So it just begs the question, why can't I do that at my own will? Why is it I have to look out for some nonsense? Furthermore, when you're near the edge of a wall, you're given another prompt where you can evade quickly. But this sucks when you're trying to stealth, as the character gets up and runs, so you never want to use it. In addition, what makes it worse is that Gears of War came out 4 years prior, so they can learn from that game and implement it into this game. Another terrible thing about this game is the camera. The camera is so bad. It feels so claustrophobic. It's too close to the back of my character and it almost has no breathing room. It gets worse when you're in a tight corridor or small space, as you won't be able to view anything. Thankfully, a lot of this game takes place in open areas where it doesn't really matter too much. But when it does happen, it is terrible. Not only that, but the goddamn shooting. Oh my god, the shooting makes everything worse. You're told in the tutorial that you stay on target, the reticle will become small, but for the most part it takes too long. I get that you can stand still and let it become small, but that takes too much time. By the time it does, the enemy has moved to a new spot, and the most frustrating thing about this is when you move your character even a tiny bit everywhere. That's why you had to stand still, otherwise when you start shooting you can unload a whole clip without hitting anyone. And don't get me started when it comes to the pistol. Oh my god, the pistol is everywhere. That's why you had to stand still, otherwise when you start shooting you can unload a whole clip without hitting anyone. And don't get me started when it comes to the pistol. Oh my god, the pistol is by far the most atrocious piece of shit I've ever used. It's as if someone jammed it up their butt and then decided they should wait a year to give it to you, while it was gained so much rust that you can't hit anything with it. Remember when I said stealth was my first option for this game? Well, this is one of the many reasons why I gave up on it. When you shoot with a pistol, the bullets go all around the enemy instead of hitting them. It almost does no damage. You can only stop with so many tranquilizer bullets before the game tells you you're full, and even then you would think the reticle would act like normal because you're using a different ammo type. But no, this is a big problem if you want to be, I don't know, a spy, like the game, a RPG, a spy espionage. If I'm going to shoot someone, I would like to know that a bullet will hit them and not it might hit them. In most cases, when I manage to hit them, it's either by accident or I put the reticle pointing towards the edge of the enemy, and in most cases, you always guarantee to hit someone at least once, but it's not really worth it. This is why the shotgun is the best. It has the most damage. You don't need to worry about the reticle. You can shoot a multitude of times. You have 3 types of ammo, so if one doesn't do too much damage, you can make that stronger. The shotgun is the best. The only negative is that it doesn't have range. Only real way to play this game is guns blazing. And this is not to mention the combat. The combat in this game is something you should also be utilizing just as much as everything else. You don't have to upgrade it in order to enjoy it. The combat is fine and you can make it better, but there really isn't any point. While the shotgun is fantastic, and by using both the shotgun and the combat, they make a great mashup. Although with the combat, stealth and everything else, it can be somewhat fixed. After all, it is an RPG, and as an RPG, you can unlock and learn new things. In this case, throughout each level, you're given a stat page to show how well you've done. And with that, you gain AP points. This is your system to learn new things and unlock skills along the way. But this also kind of sucks, as it should have been more streamlined. As you can see, there are multiple techniques you can learn: better stealth, better combat, and more. However, like I said, it should have been a little bit more streamlined, as I think that would have greatly improved the game. The pistol, assault rifle, shotgun all should have been one box instead of having them be separated. But for what is in the game right now, it's fine. But there is a major issue with the RPG and AP mechanic. So when you first start a game, you're given a choice on who you want to play as. This is just so you have a background on your character, as well as what kind of playstyle the game thinks you might go after. But this is, in my opinion, very important in the long run. As I stated, the shotgun is the best, but because I chose the field agent, I couldn't fill the entirety of the stat, which is incredibly stupid. And it doesn't even end there. In the game, you can hack computers, unlock doors, saves, defuse alarms, and each one is unique and has its own minigame. Unlocking doors leads to new areas, ammo, and money. This is by far the easiest set of minigames. All you have to do is apply pressure on the handle, and when it turns yellow, release the pin. Hacking computers leads to a game where you have to try and find a system of letters and numbers that have stopped, and you're gonna have to find them. When you do, you'll have to move the passwords 1 and 2. Then press the trigger buttons. These are randomly generated and move when the time of the bomb runs out. So you might have to look around before you can press the trigger buttons straight away. Defusing alarms are by far the most common if you care enough to defuse them. When an enemy spots you, they usually radio in and tell their friends that you're there, or they run up to an alarm on a wall and activate it. When doing so, a loud sound will play, alerting everyone. The only way to get rid of it is by defusing it. This leads into the last minigame. This was very confusing for me at first, but after doing it so many times, it became super easy. This minigame has you connect numbers and the circuits together. The reason why it was confusing to me was because of how everything looks, and sometimes the circles would change shape from rectangles to more rounded edges. But what I don't understand is, even if the enemy alerted everyone, there should be a cooldown period where it will automatically run out instead. But that doesn't happen. Instead, when you get spotted, the alarm will stay on you the whole round. While the alarm will go silent, alert symbol will stay there, so regardless of what area you go into, everyone will just know you're there. And this was the biggest bullbuster to me if you're trying to go for stealth, because when one person spots you, everybody spots you, and it is the most bullshit I've ever experienced. So for all the hate I gave the game, there's a reason why I didn't just bin it. That reason is because the story is really good. You are Mark Zuckerberg, fighting for Facebook's freedom and are trying to monopolize the world while fighting the President of America. That sounds pretty damn cool. No, in actuality, this is the story-free summary if you wish to play the game. You're Mark Thornton, an agent of Hellbeck. You're part of the Alpha Protocol program. After a series of events, missiles were stolen from Hellbeck and were sent to your location when you were on the job. You are now Mark Thornton, a rogue agent. Your job to find out who stole the missiles, where Hellbeck is doing this, and what does it all mean. Your allies are your enemies are potential allies. Who can you trust, and what decisions will you make? It's all up to you, agent. Yeah, it's a pretty good story, and we're gonna go through it if you decide to watch me talk about it. If not, yeah, see ya. That was my phone. I'm not gonna cut that, because I can't be bothered. The game starts with FOV where it shows missile hitting a plane. The camera then zooms out to show news channels broadcasting the event. Then the camera zooms out some more and it shows a man in a suit who says some dialogue and another man near the door. I'll get back to this later in the story. You're then shown that you've been drugged and have been awoken to an area you're unfamiliar with. You find a phone on top of a counter. A random woman is calling you. She tries to help you finding a way out of the area before being cut off. So you fight your way through a bunch of enemies until you reach a room with a giant monitor. A projection of a man tells you that's enough. He explains that they drugged you so that the place you're in stays hidden. He tells you they need to brief you. Once you reach the weapon hall, you meet the lady who you were speaking to on the phone. But she's such a bint! She's so aggro for no reason. The first thing she asks you is, do you know her name? And if you get that wrong, she's so rude. Like, shut up, girl. Because right after that, when you ask the question, she's even more rude. After the conversation, you need to do the weapon training. But seeing as I've already talked about the weapons, I'm going to skip over it. The next thing you need to do is talk to Westridge. And he just asks a bunch of questions that basically go over the game's RPG dialogue system. It's here we find out that you're Mark 13, an agent of Helbeck. You were brought to the Alpha Protocol program by your own will. The reason is one of many that you can choose from. Mine was I'm here for the thrills. This conversation doesn't really matter as all it is another tutorial. Westridge, the person I'm talking to, basically goes over conversations and your attitude. Goes over how conversations and your attitude dictate how others might personify you, and with the choices you make, depending on how you react and what kind of attitude you have, can lead to different events and actions. To quickly put a stop to the story, I have to mention this because this is an RPG where choices matter. My choices can lead to a different event from yours, if you decide to play this game, that is. So if there's something I didn't mention, I'm sorry, but to include everything would require more time than necessary. Another quick mention is that in this game, they use a lot of past and present events in this campaign when talking to the man in the suit. I'll talk about those events, but in a way that seems more natural to the story, instead of it being convoluted with some back and forth. Moving on, you're told that a terrorist group Al-Samad stole missiles from Helbeck, the organization you're from. Westridge tells you that Al-Shahid, the group's leader, was responsible for the shooting in Middle East. Westridge then tells you to get ready as you're going to head to Saudi Arabia to find Al-Shahid, get the missiles back, and then kill him. So you get sent to Saudi Arabia's safe house, where you get to choose what mission you want to go on. Each one can be selected whatever you want in any order. There are usually 3 to 4 missions in each area once the mission is selected. You talk to your handler who goes over the basic information about the mission. After doing the minimal tasks in Saudi Arabia, I move on to the last mission, go after Al-Shahid. Guns blazing the entire level, I end up finding a striker at the end, with rockets. Once that's been destroyed, Al-Shahid... Okay, wait, hold up. How did he survive? He should be dead. I destroyed the striker with rockets. Once confronted about a missile Shahid stole, he goes on to saying Helbeck shipped him the missiles, and then branded him the thief. He also states that the data they stole was also given to him by Helbeck. I only have 2 choices in the matter, to kill him or believe what he says. In this case, I have no reason not to believe him, and right after the conversation, I go ahead and talk to Westridge. Then the missiles were launched on my location, where Mia tells me that Helbeck was the one who launched them in order to get rid of the evidence, with Mike in it. Lastly, she informs that Mike is now a rogue, working for no one by himself. It's not safe to return as the government will outright deny he was ever part of Helbeck. Mike retreats to a safe house in Greece. And again, how did he get to Greece with ease like that? Excuse me, but aren't you rogue? Yeah, how did he go from Saudi Arabia to all the way to Greece without being detected? In the very next cutscene, we're shown that both Mike and Mia are trying to figure out what Helbeck is doing in 3 different countries, Moscow, Taipei, and Rome. With the information we're given, Mike and Mia figured that Helbeck's big goal is to raise global tensions and start a new Cold War. But why, they're unsure. So Mike's now on a public airline and meets this lady named Scarlett. She's a photographer. Even though Mike is now rogue, why would he travel on a public airplane? Wouldn't it ever know where he is, just making it easier to catch him? The game never specifically says, hey, you got fake ID. Hey, you got this. No, the game's just like, don't worry about it, fam. You're good. Fake ID, don't need that. Your name, Mike. From here, the game allows you to travel to 3 different countries, but one at a time, of course. I decided to go to Moscow first in order to learn who was the distributor for the missiles and why they did it. So when you reach Moscow, Mina and Mike are having a bit of banter.
Nice digs. I see where all that Black Ops funding really goes now.
Invoking Alpha Protocol does have its upside.
Jealous.
Please, I've used much nicer safe houses than this.
You are so jealous right now.
And that's where I knew I was gonna get Mina to be my romance, and no one's gonna get in my way. Besides Scarlet, of course, because, My first mission here is to sneak aboard a cruise ship from an underground mob boss who might have connections to Helbeck. I then will have to steal dinner what he might know about the missiles. Okay, look, I really tried to be silent here, but it is just impossible. I went in sneaking, all things were going well, until I decided to climb a ladder where an enemy spotted me. He then told everyone where I was, so I had to kill him, and once again go guns blazing. It seems that Laszlo is the boss, but he gets obliterated so fast I didn't realize he was on the ship. At any rate, Mike goes to get the data, but not shortly after, he gets ambushed with a Tumblr emo girl and her goons. It seems that they were also after Laszlo, but after killing him, they let Mike go. But then they want to kill Mike. Like, hold up! If you were gonna kill me, why not do it when you had me outnumbered? So I fight the girl named Sis. Knocking her out, I get an option saying kill her or let her go. I decided that it's best to let her go and try to gain more connections if possible. When I get back to base, it seems the group I fought has infiltrated it by hacking their way onto the monitor. The group's leader is Albatross and the organization is called G22. Albatross requests that we meet face to face. So we do that, and what he tells me is that we should cooperate. I agree, and that's just about it. My second mission is to contact a man named Grigori who might know where to find connections, to who might know something about Helbeck's involvement with the missiles. He gives me a name, an underground businessman named Sergei Surkov. But before I can do anything, my third mission is go to Leningradsky station, find any clues on the missiles. Once I'm there, it seems that there's a gang war occurring, leading to a new character, Z. Like the Z's when you go to sleep. It's a small army. She's informed about who I am and proposes that we work together. I agree, and once again we're off to investigate. There's a computer nearby with all the information about the missiles that we need, and we move on to the next mission. When I get two choices. Either let C be the one I'm cooperating with, or G22. I go for C, and we move on to my next mission, to finally go meet the man named Sergei Surkov. After I chose Z, Mina and her just start throwing insults to each other, with Mina dishing out one of the best in the game.
Receiving the link request from BCI. Are you sure you want... Shh, little girl. Time for the big boys to play now, yeah?
Z, well, that explains the overabundance of testosterone on the line.
My first and only objective is to go and talk to Sergei. Once I've managed to get into his building, for some unknown reason, G22 starts shooting up the place when I reach Surkov. I have to protect him from the people that I just said I'm gonna work with. Makes sense, checks out. Once that's been dealt with, he tells me that Helbeck is smuggling weapons through Moscow and that he reveals that he was working for Helbeck. He was the go-to guy for smuggling weapons, but there was a falling out between them, and now Helbeck's found another smuggler, a man by the name of Konstantin Brayko. I have to find him and kill him, or at the very least stop him. This is when I find out Sergei also has the Russia's boxing champion, ironically named Champion Chick, to protect him from Brayko. So Mike and Z bring the big guns to Brayko's mansion. From the very beginning, we start shooting down all of Brayko's men. At some point in this level, Z gets captured and I have the choice of to go after her or the data. Being the hero I am, I had to save Z. After I save Z, she tells me to go after Brayko. So after the boss fight, that is Brayko, I ask him about Helbeck, but he seemed to be confused about as to what I'm talking about, and had no idea aside from Surkov being the smuggler and that he did nothing wrong, as he was working for Surkov until Surkov threw him out like trash. That's when Brayko stole the data and the missile information and sent to Al-Shahid. That's when Mike realizes he's been set up by Surkov. So back to Surkov I go! Well, Mike gets to the area, it's quiet with no one around, and then suddenly Serko's men all pop out of nowhere trying to kill him. Mike eventually confronts Serko, and the reason why he lied is because he knows that Breaker might be the next handler. Serko still thinks we're friends, so I attack him. That would have been the case if he didn't run away. Champion Cheek wants to fight me, hand to shotgun. Why did he think he was gonna win? I don't know. I just demolished this man like he was nothing. Anyway, Serko doesn't get very far when Mike shoots him in the kneecap. This is when I get the incriminating evidence on Helbeck. And that's it for Moscow. Moving on to Rome. In Rome, my goal is to investigate Helbeck's connection to Al-Samaj cell. There's also a man named Martberg who I should be wary of. The first mission, bug the CIA in the comms without killing anyone. This was a little stressful, but I was successful. When I get back to base, someone by the name of Madison was looking for me, but my mission comes first. So I move on to the next one, where there's nothing to mention aside from the goofs, like when this ice cream man comes out. He's licking the spoon that rubs it against his head, and Mike's face is priceless. Like, excuse me? And then the ice cream man looks like, oh shit, he caught me. So I continue and move on to the next mission, where a man by the name of Al-Bara might have connection to Shahid. When I find him, it's unclear if he does anything shady. I have the choice to kill him or abort the mission. I abort the mission to them when I get back, an email is going off. Oh yeah, this is a mechanic that I never did mention as there was no reason until now to do so. In the game you will receive emails from people that you will meet. This is a good way of learning more about them. This in turn can get you a better or worse reputation with the emails you send. The email system can also gain you some money as the more missions you go on and the more you hack emails, you can then blackmail certain emails to then send you money to keep your mouth shut. Anyway, back to the real story. So an email was going off, I go to check it out and it's from Al-Bara. He somehow knows I was after him. He then proceeds to type, if I had the guts to kill him in broad daylight, so I'll set up a date with him. When I go to meet him, it turns out I've been dumped and Marberg instead is one that pays me a visit. To boil down the conversation, tells me that Al-Bara was killed and to not interfere with Helbeck unless everyone I know and care about will die. When Mike gets back, Madison is persistent on finding him, so he calls her. She says she has information that might help him, so he meets up with her at a cafe. She tells him Marberg intends to kill him and that he's dealing with illegal activity outside of Rome. She also informs him that he will destroy all evidence on the other protocol program afterwards. Mark then proceeds to take Madison back to his safe house. If Marberg is going to destroy all evidence, he currently will still have the data on him, so Mike has to infiltrate Marberg's mansion. When he gets there, he's asked to give up everything he knows. He refuses, and then Marberg proceeds to have his guards beat him up. Marberg then leaves the room and lets his guards do the rest of the work. I fight them and then I get the choice of choosing what handler I want. Z, Madison or Mina. I first went for Z but I got -2 points from Mina. I then loaded up the level again choosing Madison. I got 1 negative point. I then reloaded it again choosing Mina and this girl didn't give me any positive points. Like, hello, excuse me, what did I do wrong? So I was like, forget you then. I loaded it once more choosing Z. I recovered the data and leave the mansion. With the data received, it's shown that Marberg intends to blow up an art museum killing thousands of people, so I have to go there and try to stop him. When I get to the museum, a video is sent to my phone where it's shown Madison was kidnapped from the safe house. Going through the level, you reach a point where you find out Madison was brought to the museum. You'll have a choice to save Madison or defuse the bomb. Obviously the bombs are top priority, so you go and defuse them, where Marberg congratulates you on following the mission to then he kills Madison and we have a fight. After you beat Marberg, he runs away once he's getting bullied. But my only question is, why would I care about Madison? Like, I know I should, but she's so forgettable. And she's not even included in the story all that much that it doesn't matter at all. I just love how Mark just watches Madison getting shot. Like, why were you holding your weapon? He was just standing there. You could have shot him, or you could have shot a gun out of his hands, or at least shot around him, or something to just be like, hey, look, you're not gonna shoot her, man. But that's basically Rome. We now move on to Taipei, the last location. The job to prevent the assassination of President Sung. The first mission is talk to an underground mob boss to see if he knows anything about Helbeck and the assassination. When I get there, he won't say anything until I do a task for him, kill all his ex-employees. So I do that, and we're told that Hong was the one selling weapons to the terrorist group Al-Samad. He also gives a USB with info on the assassination as well as the name Omen Deng, someone who I should be wary of. After that, I have to find a man named Stephen Heck, and well, he's a very colourful character. When Mark gets there, he's torturing a man and has wild theories about nonsense. But he does say that there is international meeting with Sung being a speaker. The next mission is, you guessed it, to recover more data! This time from the NSBC hotel. So I go there, and this is the first time I'm with more people other than myself. Heck, Mina, and Scarlet are all part of this mission. They help Mike retrieve the data needed for Sung's assassination. During the mission, Heck asks to have his personal details ever existing, but the choice came up: erase his files or save the data for assassination. I went for Heck's information because why the heck not? I'm so funny. Next, find information on the assassin Omen Deng and his plans on the assassination during the mission. Deng ambushes Mike and puts him into a storage room. He then gives one of his men a USB that we managed to take later on in the mission. On the USB, it contains both the assassination and the riots, but only one could be selected before the USB will corrupt all of its files. The assassination made more sense to me. Right after, Mike goes to Sung's office to give him the USB, but Sung doesn't take it very seriously, so Mike has to take care of Omen Deng before he can assassinate the president. When I get to him, Mike and Omen have a little scuffle, and right after, Deng explains he was never the assassin, instead he was a double agent. Dun dun dun! And Sung gets shot anyway. But when all hope is lost, it's revealed he took Mike's advice to wear a bulletproof vest. And that's it for Type A. The assassin was never caught, but the attempt was futile, and finally, we reached the end of the game. Mike goes to another safe house, and Mina was there, but she gave news that Helpik is trying to create a real Cold War. And this is when the whole thing pays off, baby! When I get the choice of kissing her, like hell yeah! I have been longing for this for quite some time, but it's also the last time Mina will be a handler. Nevertheless, Mike travels to Saudi Arabia, tells Osman that a final phase to all of this is occurring, and that he wants him to make a video exposing Helbek with all the information he's gathered. For the final mission, you'll have the choice of selecting what handler you want: Z, Albatross, Heck. I went for Z as she's the one I'm most familiar with. Mike then proceeds to go to Helbek and gives himself up. This is when the intro FOV started. This is also where the interrogation scenes were being played out. I didn't mention these until now because they never mattered until now. They were just there to make your decisions in a campaign more thorough. The man's name is Leland and is the leader of Helbek. Throughout the game, he tries to provoke Mike into telling him everything he knows about Helbek and all his shady dealings. And he's the one for setting up all the events in the game, starting with the missiles to the bombs in Rome to Madison's death, the assassination attempt on President Sung, having Surkov be the weapons smuggler. Everything was because of Leland, all for the sake of national war, to gain more profit. After being interrogated, we're met with Martberg again, who we never get to kill or frame. He just walks away like nothing happened. And that's really annoying. I really wanted him to die or face the consequences of his actions. At any rate, Mike is restrained and brought back to the beginning of the game. Z helps him get out, but during the level, Z is numbered and Mina was taken hostage. But the building was gonna blow up, so I had to make a call. I went to help Z. Unfortunately, a static image of Mina being tortured and killed was shown with Westridge mugging her. Once we get out of the building, Mike had to shoot his way towards Leland. He sent his lackeys to fight Mike. From there is Westridge himself, who comments that Mina was the person to first send the missile. Being him results in the option to execute him or kill him. I spare him and handcuff him instead to see his life being dragged across in a state of misery. From there, the last act is Leland. Mike interrogates him, mocks him, and then executes him with one of the worst and best endings I've seen. It shows Mike, and that's basically the game. But the end cutscene is probably the worst and best thing I've seen. It shows Mike in the boat monologuing to himself. It's pretty funny and disappointing. But what happened to the characters throughout the game are never mentioned. That's why it's so disappointing. The ending themselves are the same with several different variations, but the overall ending's the same. You're on a boat with someone with a different hint of dialogue. This game might not be the best ending, but the journey that it took me on was worth it. But like I said before, this game has variety and a whole lot of different choices and routes that you can go on. You can find out who the assassin was. You can kill Marburg. You can side with different political figures. It's very open-ended, and that's why I really like it. But for everything else, I can't say much. There's just too much here to dislike. So I can see why reviewers at the time didn't like this game, because I didn't like this game. The only thing I liked about it was the story. In any case, that's it from me. Yeah, I suppose if you want to see more, you know what to do. And see ya.